Hello there, people of the internet. My name is Udwal Jagero, and this is Dialogues with Jagero. Today I'm with my friend, I like to call him Ronje, but he also calls himself Carrie Francis. Carrie Francis. What a name full of demois. Have you heard that that thing trending, Ronje, called demois?
I've been seeing it, but you know what?
Yeah.
I checked the meaning, but I'm actually very demure. Like, I've always been, you know.
What does it mean when you say you have always been demure?
I don't know. It means also.
How do you pronounce it? Say that again.
Demure.
Demure.
Demure. Demure.
Yeah.
Pero mimi si mu Englishman. So hivyo tu vile unaisema tu hivyo.
Yeah. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing great, guy. It's been a long time. Long time no see, but I see you on the internet.
Yeah. You watch Dialogues with Jagero?
Yes, I do. I'm one of the very first subscribers. I wish subscription ingekuwa by numbers. Mimi ningekuwa hapo kama number 7 like this. Because 7 is a lucky number.
I've known you for like 15 years.
I think you're right. The very first time we met, I was a teenager. You were probably a teenager as well. You're like 19 years old. I must have been like 15 or something.
I was probably 20.
Yeah, but we were toys.
Yeah. Also in Cathedral. You no longer go to church, though.
I do go to church. 2 weeks ago, I was in church. I was in a great church in Lagos. A great church. Do you know how great this church is? They don't have ushers that go around with offertory baskets. They have, what do you call those things that you scan?
M-Pesa.
Yeah, so basically they had barcode things on the screens, and you scan that to give your offertory or tithe. And I was like, what church is this? In Lagos, Nigeria, so I do go to church. But I went there just for the music, to be honest. But the message was great as well. It basically took me back to, I became a bit nostalgic about church. You know, when you have a good church community, which is what we used to have. Like, I grew up in great church communities in my shags and then here in Nairobi. So for me, my idea of church is a community that transcends the social benefits. You know, it's more like family or a school. You build relationships, you forge them and build them, and some of them a lifetime, like we're here right now. That's what I mean, you know. Yeah.
I don't know, where were you when we were doing In Harm's Way?
In Harm's Way, yeah, I was there. Yeah, because I remember In Harm's Way, I actually played drums for In Harm's Way.
Really?
Yeah, it was a musical. So
No.
There was a band though, no? No. The one, no, In Harm's Way. So we did Eyes of the Rock.
Yes, that's where you played the drums.
Yeah, Eyes of the Rock. But In Harm's Way as well. Was it the one with, it had a lot of people that are famous right now?
Yes.
Was that In Harm's Way?
It had Anthony Nioso.
Anthony
It had
Nioso.
Bien. I asked him to come and have me interview him, and he blue-ticked me.
Who?
Bien of South Soul.
Maybe he's busy. Or send him that poster.
Just busy for me. But that's all right.
I mean, there's that guy, he says, the bigger the podcast, the bigger the guests. So, changamoto, you know, Bien, you see, you are Bien. Like, those guys are real. Like, Bien ni msema kweli. I listen to Bien. Like, I like listening to interviews. And Bien doesn't do a lot of them.
Yeah.
And I understand why, because I think when he speaks, actually speaks a lot of sense and he speaks the truth. Because in Najua, places like that come with responsibilities, and you can either be responsible for yourself, your family, the community, or your bosses.
Yeah.
And a few people are able to actually be in service for everyone. And I think that's where the genius comes in. You know, because I mean, because a lot of people feel like
I think this podcast is gonna be big, and is gonna wish he came here.
He's gonna come. I think he's definitely going to come. It's just because those guys are some of the biggest musicians we have right now in East Africa.
But he no longer sings.
So everyone
Are they singing?
I don't know. I keep listening, like I keep hearing music, and I can recognize Bien's voice.
Yeah.
So I think he's working. I don't know. I mean, the older you get, the less latest things you know about. So that's just part of our lives right now. Like the things we'll discover when they're probably not cool anymore, but they're still cool. We discover them.
Yeah. So today you live in Colombia. You teach there. You teach music.
Yeah, I work in music and entertainment and the arts. Yeah, but if it's okay with you, I wouldn't want to talk about the other things, but like not what I'm doing right now, but more like what I've done, if that's okay.
What do you mean? Explain to me what you want.
Because
explain to me what you want, Ronje.
I want to talk about the past.
The past?
Yeah.
What kind of past?
Like where we started. But my career.
But you can also tell me the life in Colombia.
Of course. I want to tell you so much here, but you see what I'm doing there, like, yeah, but
you don't want me to, you don't want us to speak about what you do there, but we can talk about Colombia.
Yes, because my life has become. I started in the public domain.
Yeah,
like of course not, but I matured in the public domain, and then I got out of it, and now it's a phase that's sort of private. Because it's a phase of growth, and it's germination for me, you know. So when a seed is germinating, iko chini ya maji, like, you know, I just need.
It doesn't want a lot of rain.
Yeah, I just need warmth.
It doesn't want a lot of heat.
Yeah, I just need warmth, which is what I'm struggling with because the world is pretty cold. Yeah.
Is the world cold?
The world is a cold place, dude. Like,
also
it generally is cold because of prejudice and boundaries and borders and personal spaces and communal spaces and just people being communally individualistic, you know. So it's not about you as an individual, it's about just the surface, you know. So that's like what I'm dealing with, because like Nairobi right now is, if you walk into a restaurant or a kiosk or a wines and spirits place and you don't speak English, then someone is going to check you out like, where would you wanaongeanga English? Ama huyu si foreigner, kwa hivyo ana kitu. So you don't get good service. But even when you get that good service, you're like, is this worth it? You know what I mean? Like sometimes you're like, sawa, I'll pay and tafanya vile inakam, but it's not worth it. But this is very political in my opinion, because if you think a foreigner, so let's say around Kilimani and Westie or these places, or even in Uganda, you go to those neighborhoods where a lot of other people have come and they're developing. And it's not a bad thing to have other people coming, and because they bring gentrification, which happens, and I actually support, but it has to be sensible, it has to be respectful, it has to be mindful of the people, especially the ones that live around there. Because that, if it's not checked, it becomes hostile, you know. So Mimi, come on, Nairobi, I grew up in Nairobi. I'm like, what? You know, sometimes I go back to where our house used to be, and I'm like, wacha tu niende hapo for nostalgic purposes. But there's a Java apple that now you have to pretend to not even be Kenyan, you know, just to be treated nicely. Because ukikuja useme niaje ama habari yako, everyone is like lengaing, but you come and you say hi, and then suddenly it's like, what would you like, how can I help you, na 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 na. And then wakati sometimes I play along, and then I leap up by M-Pesa and they see my surname, and then you see them go like, fucking hell, like I wish I knew singempatia your respect yote. You get, so those kind of things, it makes me feel like the world is a cold place. Now ulikuwa umeniuliza if I have problems at the embassies, it's the same. You know, like you go to a European embassy or any other embassy as a black man, you know the treatment you get. Now, you go to an African embassy in an African country and they try to treat you the same way. And this happens at the airport as well. And I have had moments where at the airport, more than once, I've told airport people to treat me like I'm home. Because I can't be traveling, alafu, navumilia madharau globally from people that don't look like me because they wanted, alafu nakuja home, and then some young boy or some chick that looks like me talks to me disrespectfully just because they're in uniform. You know what I mean? I go to the Nigerian embassy, trying to go to Nigeria, and someone talks to me like I'm trying to go look for jobs in Europe. You get? Like, nimetoka kunyolewa by a Nigerian who does not even have a license for his kinyozi. And then I walk into the Nigerian embassy, and I'm being asked all these stupid questions. You get me? So it's a cold place, and it's a mindless place, and we need to change that, especially as Africans, at least as black people. At least as Africans, let's just try be like, you know what? No one cares about us, so let's care about each other. Because that's what we're doing. Like these ladies working in these boutiques huku nje. See, are they working for Kenyans? Are they working for black people? The closest is they're working for a South Sudanese, cool. But when they're working for all these other people that think they're better than you just because of the shade of their skin color, there's a problem there. You know, it's a problem, and we're just going to have to deal with it until we die because we won't be the first ones or the last ones, or, you know, it will just continue. But when we're around here, we feel like we need to feel like we're home because we are actually home. Sindio? Yeah. It's not xenophobia, but guys, put yourself first because your boss can be a foreigner and they might have more money, but wakati wa matanga, you go shags alone. You know, because those are just things we do. Your boss, if you ask your boss for matanga ama harusi, you know, like, because mzungus, they don't care about social contributions.
Yeah.
They understand philanthropy, even if they, you know, if they think about it. So when it's time for Harambee, for anything that we do as Kenyans or as black people, we're going to need each other. But because you have a nice pay slip and you have a nice address for your job, you're going to treat every other person that looks like you, unam treat na ufala.
Yeah.
Are you being clever? Are you being smart?
No.
Sindio? Because, dude, that's why some places, like, they don't want two black people working together. They want you alone so they can harass you and abuse you and tell you to go back home and deny you things that you've actually paid for. So we're not being clever.
Yeah.
You know? And this is a long one, Koa. Like
the world is a cold place. That's a nice TED Talk, Ronji. You should consider doing TED Talks. You know? Let's come back home then. You were born in Nairobi. You are a villager like me. How you were born here in the city?
No, I'm a villager. I was born in Siaya.
Yeah?
Siaya District Hospital, up on Dani. But then I came to Nairobi soon after because my family, you know, like most Kenyan families those days, especially the ones from Western, you had, we used to go back and forth. So in my case, my mom stayed in Shags to take care of the family home, kulima, mahindi, you know, the usual things. And my dad worked in Nairobi. So every school holidays, my mom came back to Nairobi with my siblings. Of course, I was the baby. But my siblings, we went to primary school in Shags, and then unakuja Nairobi High School. Alafu unaanza kujitegemea. So me, I was lucky. I think I went back and forth a lot as a baby and as a kid. Actually started school in Shags. And then I moved permanently to Nairobi when I was 14. 14? That's when my mom and I... But you're in and out? Yeah, but when I was 14, it was pretty much just in. Never out until I was a little bit older. But school-wise, because then I was in primary school, and I was then studying here, and we didn't go back to Shags for holidays. My family didn't do that. We came to Nairobi for holidays. Shags, we went for other things. Yeah. Where did you grow up in Nairobi? In Nairobi? So my family, like many families, have got stories of where they started. Like my story, I know my dad started in Eldoret. And then between there And when I was born or when I became conscious, I don't know what happened. And I don't want to go into that because you know some of my family. We are a big family, and the dynamics that come with large families when you have two moms and a father and children as large as a football team, it means the age difference between the first one and the last one is so massive that your perspectives of life or even your experiences of the same family that you all come from are very different. So I avoid talking about family because of that. That's why I was telling you, I hope I don't have to. Because I might say something that my sibling or step sibling has a very different sentiment, or you know what I mean? So I avoid that for the sake of family peace, because my family is also broken. So, and the older we get, we try to bring it back together. And so it's best for me, I just think, that I don't talk much about things that involve them. But to answer your question, when we moved back to Nairobi, finally when I was 14, we lived in Upper Hill, just around Kenyatta Hospital, around Rahim Tula, British Embassy, the National Library, where I ended up spending so much of my time until I realized I could spend half of this time at All Saints. Right?
We're going to come back to All Saints. Don't worry. Yeah. That's a very privileged community that you were living.
Upper Hill?
Yeah.
It was. It still is, but mine was not as privileged. You just ask the neighborhood. I mean, it was, because I honestly grew up seeing a lot of affluence and interacting with very affluent people. My family was kawaida, you know. So, for instance, my neighbors, like the kids I was friends with that were not like immediate neighbors, because we lived our house was provided by my father's job. So we lived in a staff community, like everyone there worked at the same place. So that comes with responsibilities, like you can't misbehave because it might, you know, inaweza ramba mzee kazini, you know. So you have to behave. If you like another girl, you like who's their dad, like what's this position at job. Like there's just a lot of dynamics that actually put you in your best behavior most times. But my neighbors, so I went to public schools, and a lot of my immediate neighbors went to public schools as well. But our, like, do you say external? Like extended neighbors. Extended neighbors. Some of them went to international schools, and like nice private schools, and they went to school in these like nice, shiny school buses. While I went to, you know, this matatu is called Viva Anyole, like the oldest matatu. They're so old, Olenti Mama used to take them to school. But, so that was the community. You had like these international school kids, and then you had like Kanjo.
But how did you guys find yourself right at the center of this affluence, and you guys not so affluent?
I'm not going to mention names, but my father worked for a company, like an old company. It has got like colonial
roots, so to speak.
Roots, yes, like the beginning of it, like the king, like the royal family would come there and things like that in its heydays, right? But of course now it's a shadow of its former self. I'm not going to mention names, so don't prod that one. But that's how we were in the middle of this, you know. But it's being there actually informed a lot of my future life, because my dad's boss, my dad's last Muzungu boss, the director of this place, the last Muzungu director, also happened to, now if you know music and social history of Nairobi, this guy used to own a nightclub called the Starlights. Like, I'm giving all the hints, but I won't mention names.
Yeah.
He used to own a nightclub back in the day, probably 60s, 70s. And then later on, he visited my mzee at home, and he left his spectacles. and those spectacles are still with my family. They're probably in Shags. But this guy, I ended up like knowing who he was before he was my dad's boss and the things he had done. And then I was like, those spectacles, I'm going to just, what's the word? Adapt them. Like take that vision so that I can use that vision. Does that even make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, because I'm a spiritual person.
To remind you of great things that you can do
exactly
in life.
Yeah.
Are those the spectacles that you're wearing?
You get it? No. No. Those ones, I can't even wear them. The first time I tried them, I got, that headache for when you're...
Yes, I know that.
Yeah, so I got that headache because they're so thick, dude. They're like that, the frame, because this guy was old. And that's the last time I saw him. He died probably the following year. He was really old. And he forgot those spectacles there. And then he died the following year. And he also used to live not too far from our house. And I go to these houses, and where his house used to be now is one of these massive office blocks,
Yeah.
Yeah, so
the ones that you can see from town.
Yeah. So I just was like, these spectacles, may I receive that vision, and longevity, because this guy was definitely a very seminal human being, based on that history that I didn't even know, and then now him being my father's boss. And I am called Kerry Francis, which is a white man's name. So
tell me about that name.
It's just Ujaluo, because my grandfather or great grandfather, coming from Nyanza, Maseno School was their place.
Yeah.
And Kerry Francis was a teacher who helped establish Maseno. And then he later came to Alliance, where he's actually buried. So my Guka guys my Guka worked there at Maseno, and therefore they named me after him, because he was a great man. And
was your Guka the one that named you?
I don't know if it's my Guka named me Kerry Francis. My father and my mother, they named me after their best friend. But that name, I omitted it from my official documents, because when I was sitting for KCPE, that's when I was at the height of my teenage angst. And my family had also just broken a year or two prior. So I was a very angry teenager. And I considered a lot of changes in my life, like, should I even keep these names? Should I keep my surname? I tried using my mom's name as, the way you have people called Wanjiro. I tried...
John Wamboi.
For 3 days, I was like, my name with my mom's name, and then later... So when I was, writing my document for KCPE, my parents weren't together. I couldn't find my documents. So I just wrote my usual names, which had always been Kerry Francis, and I'd add these other two, three names. But I just decided to truncate them. I didn't even want to use my surname, because I was like, okay, I'm not proud of coming from a broken family, and I hope that I don't end up with a broken family at some point. So I was trying to...
That's a lot of fear for a lot of people, Ronje.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm coming from a broken one. I don't want to break mine. I don't want mine to get broken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that fear for me, and it became like a flight. My reaction was flight, by rejecting names that would associate me with them. So that's why I was like, you know what, I'm going to adopt the two Mzungu names, and hopefully I don't have to use my surname ever again. Only to grow up and realize that people in workplaces, you actually referred by your surname most of the time. So like, okay, cool.
So what do they call you now?
So they call me, people choose, because for me, since I left the public space, my work in that space is what has been informing my trajectory, since I left Nairobi. And that means that my name, my street name is always there. So I have that privilege of people calling me by a name that does not appear in any official documents, which is very good with Nigeria, because Nigeria, everyone be asking for your surname, because, like you meet people on the beach and they want to know your all details. Yeah, Nigerians, guys, come on. But yeah, it's great. I mean, Nigerians are great people.
Let's talk about All Saints Cathedral and Christianity. How do you get introduced into All Saints Cathedral and for lack of a better word, Christianity? Because now I know that you have got a lot of things to say about Christianity. You've got a lot to say about Jesus. You've got a lot of things to say about life. How do you end up at All Saints Cathedral becoming an altar boy?
An Anglican altar boy.
Yeah, so to speak, yes.
Yeah, so I grew up in a Christian family. My grandfather was a layman.
A lay reader.
Yeah, my paternal grandfather. And then he had like his regalian things. And when he died, someone just randomly gave me the Glock, the white thingy they wear on top of the black one. It's called a cassock.
Yeah.
Not Glock. Glock is a gun. But a cassock. So there's a cassock that we had in the house. And at this point, the most important person that you look up to is your guka, And so, and of course, my mom and my father were staunch Christians. Like, they were Tukutendereza guys. Tukutendereza?
Yeah.
So we grew up in that environment. It was so strict that I was the first one, by the way, in my family to pierce my ears. And I had 5 elder sisters. And I was the first one to get my ears pierced. And I inspired them because they were like, what? You mean you can get your ears pierced, you're a boy, and you're not dead? Like, what? So they went and did the same. So that's the kind of environment I grew up in, very strong Christian. And my mom would take us to do church surveys, like cleaning the church, organizing the pews in Ushago. Then in Nairobi, they were like, like church warden, and my dad was a vicar's warden at some point. So just growing up around men of God, So it was automatic that we discovered the things we liked in that environment. So on Sunday, I remember when they opened the youth church, and there was a keyboard. All they had was a keyboard, like a Yamaha PSR thingy. And then the youth pastor, Reverend Tom, would come. He had an acoustic guitar, and then guys would just bring personal instruments. I remember, Mopa, Kinyanjui used to come with a trumpet, and, so All Saints was our home church in Nairobi. And then in Ushago, we had our own church. That is actually on our, my guka gave land to the Anglican church to build a church. So it's like on our property right next door. So I've always grown up in church, like church people coming over for tea after church, and then Mothers Union, so that was my environment. So it was very automatic for me to just grow up and find the things I liked at All Saints and just keep on being in service until I realized that I needed to be conscious about that lifestyle also. Yeah. Before
we talk about being conscious about life, how was All Saints like you? Are there something because All Saints was a church with the 2 heads. The poor head and the very rich head.
Yeah.
When I was there, I think that is the church that gave me the opportunity to see the future. But it's also the church that really made me suffer immensely because of inferiority complex. There was a lot of opulence that I was seeing around at All Saints Cathedral. The big cars, the people that could afford a plate of chips for 600, children of the admins like Jiwi, Paul Hingo that was already working for an international company and was coming there, Conor More. Then you had Kina Piquet. Then you had these guys that were coming, that fathers being top surgeons at Nairobi Hospital down the road. And you are looking at your life and you don't even have a parent. You don't have nothing. I remember when we were doing in Armsway, Conor More and Paulo Hingo gave me the opportunity to write the script in Armsway. And I felt that was a big thing they were putting on my shoulders. See, one of the things that made me realize that, look, shit, this guy can be something in life. A very big shot in the arm.
Yeah.
You know? But constantly I was seeing a lot of the wealth around me, and I was very, very poor. I think I was in the gutters, you know? I don't know whether I was looking at you and you were sort of, you remember that boy that used to be your friend? The boy that used to have very white clothes. He used to have this white shirt and a black trouser most of the time. Leave alone Kinakwasa, this white boy. You remember him?
Okay, yeah, my best friend. I had a best friend.
Yeah.
He was Romanian.
Yes, he was Romanian.
A Romanian kid that I met, and we became friends. But so how I met him is probably after where your question is coming in. So your question is like, how did I deal with the two heads of all saints?
Yeah, the two heads of all saints, yes.
So for me, my introduction there was as a kid. And when you're a kid, you see things. You're actually very observant, but how you make sense of your environment is different. You see a nice car, you don't see an expensive car, you know? Or you see a beautiful girl, and that's all you see. You don't see the difference in the quality of your clothes, in their accents. You're like, hey, that one is from Getikali, Mrs. Yeah, like you don't think those things. You're just like, nimeona mdem. And nimeona mse, I want to hang out with them. And in my case, it was Sunday school, Teacher John, Teacher Beatrice. Hey, Teacher Beatrice Amolo.
She's still there, I think.
Yeah, like these are people I grew up idolizing because they're the people, you know, they were so gracious. That's why I remember those people, you know. And for me, it was the singing, because I at first I'd come from Ushago. So you spend 3 months in Shags. You're just singing my, what did you used to sing? Like some Luo gospel music or some Congolese gospel music. And then you come to Nairobi and then you have these kids singing, I will dance, I will dance. Like, I will dance like David sang. I was like, who's David sang? Kwani there's a Mukale who is in the Bible, he's called David sang. Because me, I didn't know the past tense of saying is sang. It didn't make sense to me that way.
Is that so?
You get it?
Yeah.
Because me was a Shags boy. Like me, metoka Ushago, you only talk about tenses when it's your English lesson, you get. But you come into an environment where people actually, they just speak English, like wanaongeanga tu hivo. So they're singing songs that give you context, like songs that have got different, you know, when you see when like you're learning a language, maybe the best way to do it is a different language, because then you learn all these things that come to make sense later. So this was me, and I'm using that song as an example. So being a kid and I'm singing these new songs, then I go back to Shags and I'm like, I can sort of teach. But the highlight of my Sunday school at All Saints was the materials they would give kids, because you had like these illustrations of biblical stories. Then at the back, maybe you had like either joining the dots or coloring, you know, just a photo of Jesus with the lamb, and you have to those things made me look forward to going to church. And then I grew up in that environment, so I had church friends that I only saw on Sundays. And then with time, they become weekend friends, because you see them on Saturday afternoon, because now we are growing up and we're becoming teenagers, and we are going on Saturday for practice and all these things. So I was used to them. I knew like we didn't drive, but we thought we walked to church because it was just, you know, like I crossed Haile Selassie, and then I crossed the safest street in Nairobi, in Kenya even. It was called, I don't know if it still is, because it was literally the safest street.
Which one?
You know the street with the Archbishop's Garden,
Yes.
and the Israeli Embassy,
yes.
and Fairview Hotel. It was, and then huku mbele is the prisons. Then like it literally, they say if you lived hapo katikati, you could just live your life oblivious of any dangers in the world, because everyone is watching you and no one dares come there to mug people. But anyway, so I'd crossed those two streets and I'm in church. I cross them up again and I'm back home. And if we're feeling naughty and we have pocket money, sadaka to Jalipa, we use the back gate and we're into Uhuru Park and we drink softas and mandazis. You know, like life, simple, perfect, beautiful. And you're young, so you're not stressed. Like you don't deal with, you don't see problems or what challenges, you know. So I just grew up in that environment, and I didn't think that, oh wait, I'm surrounded by very wealthy people, you know. It probably made sense many years later because people bringing their own instruments to church. I'd become curious about drums. I'd seen drums on TV, at crusades, up at Uhuru Park, but I'd never actually touched a drum set. But when people started bringing instruments, David Gitoho brought his drum set to church.
Yeah.
And then me after I watched him the whole time.
Do you talk with Gitoho anyways these days?
It's funny, I don't see him a lot. And it's crazy because I actually see him at the airports. Like, you know, when you're uko nyuma umeketi kwa ndege, then, actually the pilot, the captain is announcing, and the assistant pilot is David Gitoho. You're like, what? David Gitoho is my pilot today, you know? And then we fika uko.
That has happened to you?
Yeah, and I have to wait. Yeah, honestly. I waited. Everyone left the plane. I was there with the hostesses. I told them, I want to say hi to the pilot because that's my boy for days. And then he came out, said what's up, and I was on I was on tour. Like I was taking a band to somewhere. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then David Gitoho, whose drum kit was the first I ever played, was the pilot of that plane. So, dude, I'm not like he's crazy. It's crazy. So later on,
that's unbelievable, man.
Yeah. So later on, when I was trying to buy a drum kit, is when I realized that wait, maybe some of these kids you hang around are not like you. Like you guys are not the same, you know. Because I realized what a drum kit is actually about 50K. That time, the one I wanted, like this is an okay standard quality, like a stage custom entry level. It's just okay, you know. You can't impress anyone with it except how you play, but not with its quality. That's when I realized that wait, these kids have been buying all these things. Me, I'm now trying to buy mine, and I'm 18 and I cannot. That's when by then I realized that wait, maybe these kids, they come from more affluent families than my own, you know what I mean? But the talent was always there. The love was always there because kids are kids, and until they're told not to hang out with certain people, which is great because All Saints, I went to people's homes. I brought people home as well, and most of I didn't know, like none of them showed me that I was coming from like a smaller house, so like you guys don't have like your own gates and a driveway like this, you know. They didn't make me feel all that because ours was, I live really close, let's go like this, pick at this corner, we go drink maji, and then we run towards Yaya Center. Like, you know, that was the game. Then we take a jab back to Nateremka mpaka also. It was easy, you just make that car.
Where their parents are still, you know, talking in church. Waiting for them.
Yeah.
You go home, take water, and then come back.
Yeah, because we're just kids. You run around, you're burning energy. I remember, and then parents started leaving their kids with me because I was always there. And sort of like, I mean, no one treated us differently. All Saints only changed faces when they started installing like all these electronic passes and things. That's when, because also that's when they started changing, like the staff, people that work there. Because like you mentioned, someone's dad. These are people that they live there, like people grew up there. You know what I mean? So the community was the same. But then later on, around between, I'd say 2006, up until 2020, when I quit church, a lot of changes, like there was no like relationships. Because us guys were not involved in the corporate manenos, but we started sort of getting in the corporate mind vibes, because you're like, wait, this is not real anymore. This is about business. It's about what have you done. It's about why did I do it and you did not take care of me. It's about why did someone's house burn, but someone that spends all their time here in service, they had a tragedy. Why wasn't there like a dignified way of coming through for them? And where is the basic care for humanity? Why is everything, I started now seeing the world and studying, and things weren't making sense.
You're starting to see the cold in the world.
Yeah, I started to feel it. And you know what? It's as cold as the devil's bum. You know, U2, this song says, I still haven't found what I'm looking for. It's a song by U2. And he says, I have touched the hand of the devil, and it was called the night or something like that. But basically, it's like those moments of you've been hanging out with God the whole time, and you didn't even realize until one day you hang out with the devil and you're like, holy moly. And it's funny because God wasn't in church and the devil was in church. So it throws you off. You're like, what? Why the whole time I was hanging out with God in the wrong places? But what was the devil doing in the right place? And then you have to be like, you know what? Blinky Bill. You quote Blinky Bill when he says, Misi nati si babi, niko tu katikati. Sitaki kusikiza stories za charity. Nipe wings ni defy gravity. Bruh, Blinky Bill writes songs that speak to my life.
Is that so?
Yeah. Because
where is he anyway these days?
He's around. He did a great performance the other day.
Where?
Actually, last week at Allianz.
At Bonye's show?
No, just his own with MDQ.
Really?
Yeah, on Wednesday. I wish you knew. It was a big show. But, so, and you see Blinky...
You were there?
Yeah. And Blinky also used to play guitar at All Saints.
Yes, I know.
I mean, ujaniuliza story vile nilingia into music, but...
That's what was coming next.
Oh, was it? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So niulize nikuambie your story.
Yes. How did you get into music project?
So it goes back.
You can eat another. This is
another pizza.
Yeah, this is like done in the most natural way and traditional way. They literally cook it with fire behind here.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you can take another piece. So that you're taking wine. You're taking two drinks at the same time. You're taking wine and you're taking whiskey.
Wine is the blood of Jesus, and then whiskey is made by hands of men. Do you know where I first got drunk off wine?
No.
At church.
Tell me that story. How did it happen?
He said I was an altar boy. So, those things for communion service. And then you're there, you set up, you did the service, now you're setting down, everyone's gone home.
Yeah.
And then there's this visiting reverend, he was doing communion. And then, the chalice.
Yeah.
Because they used to use the small... What are those things called in religious language? Because me, I just call them tot glasses, but see, tots are now... I'm even learning these things are called tots. Nikisha enda huko kwa ulimwengu. But anyway, we drink communion in these tiny glasses. Ulimwenguni. When ulimwengu is funzing me, ulimwengu was like, hii inaitwa tot glass.
Yeah.
I'm like, sawa, asante ulimwengu. But in church, people would avoid the chalice because of hygiene and whatnot. So the chalice would just be there with like maybe this amount of church.
Wine.
But see, church wine is actually dry red wine.
Yeah.
So the visiting reverend, when we were sitting down, was like, "Where my Lisa yo?" He didn't mean, but like, I mean, I don't know, but he told me to finish. It wasn't much by the, like, even probably 2 adult sips. So maybe I went, hey, kumbe si mbaya. Kumbe si mbaya hii kitu. But I didn't know that was actually the real wine. Me, I knew that was church stuff. I knew, you know, because
You know, it was alcohol.
no, because moja ya kanisa iko mpaka na msalaba. Like it's made specifically for church, like at least the one that All Saints Cathedral uses, because it's a fancy church.
Yeah, it's bought by, it is, I think it is provided by Kenya Wine.
See, Kwal.
Kwal.
Great. Yeah, it's not like Ushago where they drink G Raibena. But Anglicans don't do that stuff. Anglicans wanakwanga na class when it comes to communion. Holy Communion, you'll never see Anglicans using bread, orange juice.
Vitu ovyo.
So they have standards. That's why I'm proud to be Anglican, actually, because, you know, kuna tu mahali, you need a culture behind you, like, where's mtu mwitu sana, you know?
Yeah, it's a white church.
Yeah, traditionally, it was that.
Yeah.
And still, so, you know, when you uko inje, you meet some old people. Like, I've met some amazing people. I met a Vika one time. No, this is about patriarchy.
Yeah.
We attended a friend's wedding, and it was a very traditional English wedding, or should I say, anyway, very traditional Anglican wedding. You know, they played the hymns and everything, and the brass band was so good. They played this hymn that I only know it in Jango because my Guka used to sing it.
What is it in Jango?
Not that one, but there's another one. Maybe you keep singing them. They played it so well, and I became so nostalgic, and I got into my feelings because I was like, I like brass. I should have been able to play, you know, like just things came into my head, and then I cried at someone's wedding, but you know, you can cry at weddings, especially when you're around Muzungus. When you're around Muzungus, it's okay to cry because it's like, oh, it's so beautiful. You know,
it's so beautiful.
It's so beautiful. But me, I was crying because the music touched me. It hit me so hard. I didn't even feel pain. Like, I was like, oh, Nadia Mbarasuku.
Yeah.
So I met this reverend that turned out to not be the reverend. His wife was the reverend. But because of patriarchy manenos, socially, he does the duties of his wife. He's a lay reader. You get? But his wife is a vicar. So he performs vicar duties, like the ones that he can. Then the vicar just does very little because apparently, because you know the lay is there to help the vicar. So this guy, he performs most of the functions, and if you don't know about uniforms and all those things. So I came introducing myself, calling him the vicar. Then he was like, oh, actually, the vicar is my wife. And then they explained it, and the wife was like, yeah, it just did seem right for me to have bigger title than my husband. But these guys are like 90, they're like 92 and 89 or something like that. Yeah. And they're like old Mzungu couple in Edinburgh. But I tell them, I'm Anglican. I grew up in the Anglican church. I know Psalm 53, Psalm 23, the Nicene Creed. Like, you know, you just invoke all these Anglican tradition stuff, and then they relate with you. This is not kissing ass. This is just you trying to fit into another society. Because when you go in the diaspora, see, the issue is that, oh, these Africans, they just come over here with their cultures, they don't fit in, you know, which is different because most Mzungus don't try to fit into our cultures. But when you're there, because ushaenda huko and you're like, I didn't come all this way, nikulwe na hii baridi na bado nisionge na watu. So my Anglican upbringing has helped me in those situations when I'm like, I know what the church was. You know, they're like, what? People your age nowadays do not know what a cassock? You know, why do you even know what a cassock is? Or why do you know that you tune the organs by hitting pipes? You know, because because I was out all since just doing anything that needed to be done, and that included tuning the organ with John Dixon. I'll be there, you know, with Jared Ogola and John Dixon. Me, I'm G-boxing, you know.
I know about Dixon, but this guy Jared Ogola is such an enigma at All Saints Cathedral. What the hell does that guy do there? Do you know?
See, he tunes the organ and he sings in the choir. Me, I don't know. Me, these are guys that I grew up seeing also. Honestly, like, yeah, so many people I didn't even know. I didn't know what they did out there. Like when I started working in schools, and then I'm going to just my school events, and because international schools are very academic with their music, so it's all classical music, and you have like orchestral weekends and things, and you're going there. You're meeting kids that play the oboes, like some instruments you don't even know, like what you think it's a small trumpet, but it's not. Or it's a big violin, but it's not. You know, so I'm there learning things, and then you see things like, that face, I've seen it at church. You know, so this is how basically I grew up in that environment. Me, I was a happy-go-lucky, very oblivious, very naive kid, just going around. Everything I did, like my piercings, I know I used to have a crazy fashion sense. Like, I did all those things out of innocence and oblivion. Like, I was just gleefully going through life, you know, until I was 20, which is great, because think about it.
You're pretty privileged. Not me, mine so much, not so much privilege. I think come to think about it, you're very privileged.
In what sense?
You fit in so well at All Saints Cathedral.
But that's just because, had you grown up around that environment, Koa,
yeah.
It doesn't matter. And you see also, and you understand this because it's also about society or life is about contributions. It's about what do you bring in. Because you saw, like in every space, you see all kinds of people, and some are very productive or are, what's the word, are useful, you know, but some are not. So some are takers, some are givers. And the work of the church, I would say, is to be able to differentiate the two. So that if someone is a giver and they're needy, don't wait for them to ask for it. Right? Like the body of Christ should be, like, don't be like, oh, me, I didn't know ati huku ilikuwa imeruka kwa nguo ya Yesu. So Jesus has been walking around with this bum showing, but his disciples in front don't care because he did not say ati his bum imeruka. You get? The body of Christ, that's not the body of Christ that we should be dealing with or that we should be eating on communion Sundays. You get?
Yeah. But
then they are takers. Now, those ones, there are many reasons why they are takers. They are professional takers. They are unfortunate takers that didn't want. Wamejipata tu hapo. Now, those ones is now where you have the ministries for, like, you mnaendanga huko kwao for missions and things. You take things for them. But someone that finds their way to come help keep the Lord's house clean and running and operating, that's someone that should be taken care of. They shouldn't be waiting until they don't have fare to go home. You know, it makes the body of Christ look bad, but maybe the body of Christ, we need to think about it.
There are so many people that have talked. There are so many people that have talked about that same issue. I think there is this gentleman, I forget his name, has talked about the idea of working in the church, where the church always wants you to volunteer. Like, for example, All Saints Cathedral is a place that had no problem with money, but you saw a lot of volunteers really struggling at All Saints Cathedral. What do you think is this about that the church usually wants to take? But when it comes to giving, it's like now there is a process of giving.
Yeah.
When you are supposed to be giving to the church, there is no process to volunteering in church.
Yeah.
But when it comes to giving
to
you
them
something,
giving,
now suddenly there is a huge process.
I mean, it's just human nature, man. Like, because honestly, like, first of all, we need to be realistic. as humans, we need to be realistic and be like, you know what? God did not invent a lot of things we have right now. God invented us and the earth that we live in. Everything else that we've been able to create has been our being godlike, you know. You know, when God created us in His own image, and He breathed life into us, that enabled us now to invent the things that we were going to need in future, and that we keep doing. So it enabled us to, for instance, be like, oh, Eve amefanya ile kitu, now we are naked. So the breath that God breathed into us enabled us to figure out that a leaf, if we put over here, maybe, you know. But I'm going by biblical stories and the illustrations, you know. But at what point did humans start to invent things and be like, oh, it's too cold, we need some AC. Oh, it's too cold over here, let's go and colonize Africa so we can build ACs for ourselves. You know?
Yeah.
So that's the godlike character in us. And then we overdo it now by being selfish, and we're like, okay, let's now build these things and try and reach heaven, be like God Himself. The Tower of Babel. Basically, these are towers of Babel. Like, churches are towers of Babel because churches stopped being what they were meant to be. Like, church was not even a physical building, right? It was a gathering. It was a communion. A communion is people sitting together, and where 2 or 3 are gathered, then God is also there because of what? That breath to wekea. So He's hapo too. He's chilling with us. Whatever we decide to do with that breath now determines whether we live peacefully or not. It determines whether this earth quishes sooner than it was intended or not. That's how I see it. So All Saints is basically people that came, because first of all, we all know All Saints was a Mzungu only church. Africans were not allowed to go there. And when I was there learning music, I remember one time I was on the piano and I was like I'd memorized a song huko kwa youth church. So now I've come to test my skills on the grand piano. Hey, do you know what? I'm a Mzungu woman. I'm old, you know, like the last of a dying breed of racist Mzungus. She came.
Last of a dying breed.
She was one of the last of them because she was so old. I bet she used to hang out with Olentimama when they were kids. I think Olentimama is like the oldest person I've experienced. That's why I keep using Olentimama. Do you know Olentimama is so old? When God said, "Let there be light," yenda alibeba Yesu, because the light used to be uko juu.
I hope that you're enjoying this program. Over the last 15 years, I have been working online for clients in America, in Europe, and all over the world. And that is why it pains me a lot when I see a lot of African brothers and sisters saying that they do not have a job. Now, this is the problem. A lot of people are trying to look for a job in 2024 in their own town, in their own country, in their local area. Now, the truth is, there are no jobs in Africa, at least not so many jobs. The good news is that we have internet these days. We have a tablet, we have a computer, we have a phone, and that means that we can do a lot of jobs, and those jobs are online. That is why over the last 4 years I've been writing a book that is called Digital Goldmine. It is a book that explains to you how you can earn money online. The 18 hustles that I've chosen are basically for Africans, because what happens when you are doing online jobs is that payment is usually a problem. So these 18 side hustles that I have put together in this book, you can be paid very well and very conveniently. Okay, so the book is only 1,000 Kenya shillings. That is about $10. You can buy it in Kenya using paybill number. You can buy it online from anywhere in the world using a credit or a debit card. All the information about this book is in the description below. And if you have a brother, you have a wife, you have a husband, you have a friend who is sitting at home and watching Netflix, please do buy this book for them. If you are the one sitting at home and watching Netflix and have nothing to do, please buy this book and your life is gonna change forever. Because I have been doing this online and I've been traveling and I've been enjoying myself and having a lot of fun. So thank you very much, and now back to programming.
But anyway, so guy, this woman, Mzungu lady, came and kicked me off the piano. She was like, toka. You know those men that speak Kikuyu and Kiswahili? So I'm telling you, she was like the last of them. She kicked me off the piano, and then they'd be out there, Apo Twinja church, smoking cigarettes also. And basically, they are changing my...
They were smoking cigarettes outside the church?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, these Mzungus that used to come for afternoon service, these are just people that come to church. Because, I mean, the English people in England, people don't go to church like that. A few people do, and if you go to those churches, they're not strict. They're just communities for things. And you have smoke break if you're going for a youth camp. You know, it's okay if you're drinking your alcohol. Just do the wrong thing at the right place or right time. So alcohol, not my issue if you drink alcohol, just not now or not here. You get?
Yeah.
So it's a society that does not have head boys. It doesn't have people telling you yes or no, ama unaweza ingia mapana, kuna you get. So everyone knows what to do, and there's consequences, and then you have a society that operates in a way that we admire, and then they can tell us you can't come to our country because yours does not operate like us, even though it's our system that we introduced to yours. So it doesn't work there because we kill your system, so you can try use ours, knowing very well that you cannot really master our system, so you'll always be subordinate to us. We will always tell you, you're shite, you're not clever, look at your country, look at your brothers and sisters, look at your politicians living off all this corruption money. We've given them so we can keep stealing your resources, but you will never get to fight that fight, because if you try, your own people will call you a traitor or a bad person, and them, they will kill you on our behalf, and life will go on over here. But you, ni maneno makubwa. So, guy, like all things, it's disappointing, but is it different from any big organization, globally, nationally, anywhere? You know, it's an organization that it sells hope and dreams to those that need it, but it sells opportunities and networks to those that are above basic aspirations. You get? So you can go there to network if you're looking for your next investment. You can also go there to be inspired. If all you want is to take photos with the latest Range Rovers.
Yeah.
Sindio. So you kumbuka when Charles Njonjo came with this guy had the Range Rover Sport. I don't even know about, I don't care about cars, but Charles Njonjo, when he was in his 80th, I don't know, for his 80th or 90th birthday, he got like the latest Range Rover, and he was this old man driving into church. And every young person is like, wow, like our jaws are huko kwa pavement. So if you need that inspiration, you can also go to All Saints. And now I haven't been there for 10 years or more.
Why? Because you're saying you're in charge and you've never been to All Saints.
I'll tell you why. Do you know why? I go to Christchurch in Westlands because Christchurch is like, it still kind of feels... Adolwa Ndoko squeezy. I don't, yeah, but you see, it has.
Toma used to be there, and then.
Yeah, so Toma introduced me to that church, and then I loved it so much because it's a tiny wooden church, and it actually had a community where people every Sunday would go to someone's house, and they just hang out and eat and then go home and things like that. You feel like you belong. It's not just hanging out and then with your age mates, and because me, I've always wanted to hang out with people older than me. So I had my age-mate friends, but sometimes I just wanted to sit with these mubabas nisikie. Mukiwa director Kenya Railways in 1967. Yeah, you know. Me, I penda those kind of things. So Christchurch in Westlands, it had that community vibe. So I'd go there occasionally. But then, problem with me, when I go to church nowadays and they sing hymns really nicely, I can't control myself. I just lose it. I cry like a little girl. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah, because I grew up in that, and I think the things that I'd have loved to ask my grandfather, and he died before I was mature enough to ask those questions. And I can remember him through hymns because he was like I said, and he'd sit on his mango tree and just sing hymns from the hymn book. Like kitabu ndogo hivi.
Yeah.
And he'd just read like song for song the whole afternoon. And his friends would come join him, like things like that. So hymns do that to me. But yeah, man, like all science.
Your love for drums.
Where I started.
Yeah.
In Shags. So where I come from, we're at the border between what used to be Western Kenya and Nyanza province. But we are uko sides for Siaya. I'm from Siaya. So I'm from Siaya, but my mom's from...
There's somebody who's telling me that you're Luhya. Is it really true that you're Luhya?
With migrations, do we even know who we are? Migrations just within Africa and within Kenya, and intermarriages and economic dynamics that made people settle wherever they are settling now. Because Professor Ogot says that, he said that because people have been migrating into Kenya for at least 500 years. That can be like 500, and these were defined groups of people just coming in from whichever direction. And now, 500 years later, we really can't claim that we are, like, if we did a thingy, I'm probably not a Nilot, But my ancestry, to not sound like I'm avoiding your question, is that there were movements around that. It's the same way they say my Railas, Odingas are not Luos. Because the Luo of Kagere and the Lunjes of Mumias, these guys have been neighbors for so long, and then they have neighbors who go in Uganda as well, and they sort of look the same, and they're very militant and brave people. Because Jokagere, who are my mom's clan people, these were the Luos that rebelled. Like, they refused to collaborate. They were like, no, we don't want Mzungu vibes over here. And Nabongo, who was the Luhya king up on next door, had already given in. This guy had been given clothes, he had guns, he had even like wives from the coast.
Nabongo Mumia.
Yeah, he was a king, and now he was being used, being empowered to help Mzungus colonize now, surrounding areas. Because history, if we don't put it into concept or context, what we are told is, oh, Mzungus came. But how can someone just come from Europe? They don't speak your language and then do all these things those people did. Who helped them?
Us.
So we have to talk about those people too. I'm not saying we go now Vamia na Bongo at Ituasal. No. We just need to know that these guys, this is what they did.
Even what they're doing right now in Africa is being perpetrated, and Kinaruto are their minions.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Me and Sema, right now we are living under neocolonialism. Like, that will be the story. We lived under neocolonialism, and the way ati guys used to have pass cards ati kama unatoka Islando ndo uvuke Kenyatta Avenue ukuje this side, you needed a kipande. That's a kipande system, right? Now, as guys, how different is it that I cannot go to Uganda without a passport?
Yeah.
Kuna tofauti hapo. Tuko to the same.
And kipande system.
Yeah, and whose sharias are these? These are not African sharias. Who built Kenyatta Avenue na wakai separate at now huku ni Westlands, huku ni Islando? It wasn't us, so those were not our rules. It's the same way they put a boundary between countries. Mimi, I have relatives in Uganda.
Like real relatives?
Yeah, these are my paternal relatives. But we're not even, we don't even care about it because inatusaidiaje. You see, because I don't come from a family that has wealth on this side and wealth on the other side, so you have to connect things and like intermarry, like, nah. So they put that line there. It serves them. Kwisha maneno. You get.
So you don't go to Uganda to visit. But what language do they speak on the other side?
No, so they speak Luganda. Maybe some of them they speak. There are Cholis. Because my auntie, the one who made my parents, she now they're Luos, but they're from Uganda. But it just happened they had like actively, people used to just, because before you know a border is coming for village, you don't even know. Because you just put a line and suddenly you're in another country. That's why you have like how, I don't like mentioning people, but the former Kenyan Vice President, Moody Awori, his brother was like a senior politician in Uganda. It's one family, they don't come from geographic or Uganda, but they come really close there. So that's a whole community that lives in two countries. And I'm sure aside for Homa Bay, Migori, there are Luos that also live the same way. Somalis do, uko chini, Maasais do, So East Africa,
Tanzania and Kenya.
Yeah, East Africa is a very porous place because of those kind of things. And sometimes it's not nice because you look at the broken family ties. Like this is just for political reasons. It's not like, it's not, it's an external problem that just affects people. So we live in colonialism. Me, that's my story. I lived under neo-colonialism, and I could not say what I wanted because me, I've been called a racist. I've been called racist by those people, by the people that support the other people against their own, Because, dude, this is not racism. This is self-care. When you take care of your own kind first, it's just self-care. Because but there are many dots in life that need to be connected. And only a few people have the privilege to even know they exist because most people are thinking about the basic needs like food and shelter and clothes. And then now it's school and it's education and health. And then when you're doing all that now, you want to be seen like uko tu sawa, you want your small car, you want a nice house in Shags, and then you want a smartwatch, an iPhone, so a lot of things that keep us from actually ever living for real. And then, but then you realize that we don't need those things. And it's hard to explain because there are things I've never used, like an Apple Watch. I've never used an Apple Watch because...
But you're an Apple guy.
Yeah. I discovered Apple phones in 2020. No. Yeah, 2020. That moment I was quitting church. I went all out. So I was like, okay.
You started worshipping the Apple Watch.
No, I didn't start worshipping it. I was just like, I'm giving myself now permission to live according to my own terms. You get? So I was like, I'm not going to feel guilty for getting things that I can. Then I realized that I actually don't need a lot of things that I thought I needed or wanted. So for instance, I like Apple phones just because of their simplicity and they do the job. I don't have ads popping up every time I'm trying to use another application, I don't have to deal with that. Like the only ads I deal with is YouTube. But even that one, if I subscribe as Zico, you get.
Why haven't you subscribed to YouTube?
Because right now I'm just not. I don't have time to use it. It's not worth it. So niko na Spotify, and that's it. But you see, I don't use Apple Music. So I'm not like at 100% Apple at anything Apple says, does, produces, 90.
Yeah.
Because I don't need it.
Why did you leave the church, Ronje?
I left the church because, like I said, it didn't. I learned. I became curious. I was always curious, but my curiosity figured a level where I could now make sense of things and actually compare them and not be afraid of either hellfire or my parents killing me on behalf of God, And then I realized that maybe I can try things on my own, and church at that point was not helping me. Just, me, I was a musician. I wanted to be a musician. I wanted to play music. Church, you only got to play there once for 15 minutes.
Before they preach?
Yeah, that wasn't going to help my career. Like I needed to go out, and I didn't have godfathers. I didn't have my BRSM. Like those came, but I needed to go out and find my musical qualifications. You get and to get there, to even know they exist, I had to go out into the world. Like umejua. That's now where you're asking about my friend Alex. I go to Westie, Amuko at. Sinful places. And then I meet people that have got stories that impact my life, people that have got doors that open your life, I remember meeting a kid one time and I told him, like some random Indian kid. And I told him, I'm a musician, I'm interested in the media as well. And then this kid, for some reason, took me to KBC. He just like, let's go. Yeah. You want to work on TV, let's go. He took me to KBC, tukaingia mpaka huko ndani. We didn't have anything, but for some reason, because you see a Mwindi kid, uko Nairobi mnafungua to get. Huyo hawezi kuwa na ubaya. Mzungu huyo. So he took me along, and then we went there. We did things, and it got me thinking hard. Like, because I didn't even know. Every time I'd go places and the gate is closed. At Apple since kuna wakati. Kuna jamaa anaitwa Cosmas. Ni rafiki yangu siku hizi if I see him.
Yeah.
But Cosmas used to kick me out. Nilikuwa nakuja all since because I'd come mapema so that I get to play drums before kina praise and worship guys come.
Cosmas is the guy that used to work at the kindergarten.
Yeah. And then he'd like fukuza me. And then, but this was the guy introducing me to his friends in higher places because I had proven that mimi hapa ndo nataka kukua, you get. But this like 10 years later, this guy is like, wow, let me call this guy. I'm like, what? It took 10 years, this guy, for me to prove. Because now he's meeting me at places, he's also has got less liberty. But maybe because niko pale, like have a room, have a changing room. People are like, what? So it's just vile vitu zinakuanga Jagero. Like, yeah.
You went into the world.
I went there.
But then, Ronje, I remember there is a time that there is a house that you used to live along. You've lived in very privileged places. There's a place you're living around. What is the name of that place? The park next to Arboretum. You've got a very fancy house there, I remember. I came there a couple of times.
And in your fancy car also. Don't leave that one out. You cruise in your fancy car for lunchtime. And then
my Mercedes Benz.
Yeah, man.
Oh, I love that car. The government hated it.
Yeah, because you had a foreign plate.
Yeah, the government.
I remember that.
The government really hated that car. And fuck the government. They really hated that car.
Yeah.
And fuck Kikuyus that were.
Because you're trying to look nice in your own way.
Those guys, those Kikuyus that sell cars, they were like really hating on that car because they are saying Ugandan people are bringing cars from Uganda and denying them business. People are no longer buying. They made it very difficult for me to drive that car, by the way. At some point, I think they lobbied Uhuru Kenyatta to put punitive charges on that car. At some point, I was supposed to be paying $5,000 per month for that car.
What? Just for having a foreign plate?
Yeah.
That's insane.
So I decided, okay, let these niggas sell their cars. Me, I'll just go and find another car.
And that's how impunity works, right?
Yeah, that's how impunity works. But what I'm telling you is that at some point you told me that art is really a bad place to... Being an artist in Nairobi can be very difficult. And we had lots of conversations around that.
What's at Arboretum?
It was at Arboretum. You came to my office on Gong Road. We talked about it. At some point, you were very frustrated with being an artist. And you were telling me, how can I pivot? What was your experience with art? And what is really wrong with art globally? Because everybody as an artist is crying. I was really shocked, Ronje, that the guys that write scripts as Hollywood went on strike.
I know.
What?
I mean, I never knew what the purpose of writers' guilds until that one. Then I was like, oh, wait, writers' guilds ni kama kotu ya waandishi wa scripts. Honestly, yeah, because they were organizing mandamanos, Jesus, striking. I'm like, kumbe, Yeah, Writers Guild is go-to for writers.
Yeah.
So
Why do you think being an artist is a very hard thing? Why do you think nobody really respects artists? Like, if you want to, there is a time I want to, these guys asked me to go and do a poem, and I told them I'm going to charge them 10,000. And they're like, what exactly is the 10,000 for?
they ask you that.
Yeah.
But you see, I don't even know where to start, guy, because I've been a struggling artist, and now I'm sort of like a teacher artist, which can also be called a failed artist.
Is that so?
Yeah, I mean, most teachers are failed artists.
Most art teachers are failed artists.
Most teachers are just failed people in that area. Let's just call it. But you see, teachers, maybe that's why teachers are struggling with pay huku Kenya.
By the way, this wine is hard. It's really good.
I only drink dry. So dry means aina kimbelembele za sukari. No. This one is for it's for the connoisseurs. You could taste ya kitu imekoma.
Yeah.
Hii ni kama chang'aa lakini iko na flavor.
It's really hard. I am so glad we brought the pizza, man.
Yeah.
It's the one that is saving the day for me.
You're sliding. You're mteremko. But mse, wine is, me I can down a bottle and function. I'm not an alcoholic. I just like wine. But wacha nikujibia swali. Art is, because art is difficult as a career because everyone's an artist.
Really?
They just start from there. Hey, everyone's an artist. It's like food or restaurants. Like, restaurants, they say, is one of the best businesses because it's always going to be there. Like, the demand will always be there. You just need to find your market. Useme, mimi nachezea hapa kwa, tuseme, wherever tu, pali unajua. Mi natumianga example ya Chapodondo, guys. Because these are guys that need, or Mahindi Choma guys, though that one doesn't sell sana. But Chapodondo, na chai. This is a guy that needs not much to start his business, but he just needs human traffic and right timing. He's in business. And that's why this guy is coming from Rwanda, Burundi, like this guy is walking around with mandazis in a flask. See, they make money. Honestly, those guys in a night, because I still do my night photography. Like I go, and I meet this guy tells you, naeza uza hivi trips kama sita, because they have a base. Like kama ni city center pale, they have a room mahali uko back street. And then this guy was telling me he can make 6 trips just selling within city center in a night. Now umejua every trip akona liter 4 ya chai or coffee, one ile thermos kubwa ile. So unajua thermos?
Yeah.
Iko na 2 liters each. Some moja ni chai, moja ni coffee, and the other one amebeba ndoo ile ya mandazi. So he makes 6 of these and everything. Every time he makes a sale like this, it's at least 20 bob. So juu utakunywa ile tumbler ndogo 10 bob kahawa.
Ile stungi yenye ameweka sukari mingi.
Yeah, and then he gives you a mandazi. Hiyo ni mbao. Every time you stop that guy, he's making at least 20 bob. Juu pia utajikua mandazi peke yake.
Yes.
You get. So food is like that, and art is also like that. Food hata ni afadhali juu you have to go cook it. Saa zingine niko tu na pesa sina. But art, anyone can recite a prayer. It's a recital. It's a performance. He's an artist. Kuisha maneno.
Yeah.
You get me? They just need someone. They need a market for it. If I can pay you to recite a prayer, si uko biz. So everyone's an artist, and that's why also people don't buy it, because like, oh, mse nampendanga lakini because you can probably sing better than or you don't like how they dress. So alafu, because of that, your market is saturated. And now with the internet, that's why we have so many famous people we don't even know. Like now there's a photo of some American rapper, is in Diani, and everyone's going crazy about it. But 3/4 of the internet is like, who is she? hatujaimsikia, mi hata simjui, sijui ngoma zake. But her market are going crazy how this American rapper is in Diani. You get? So that makes it so difficult because it doesn't matter. And the higher you go with your art, with your craft, at sasa, you're a ballerina, you've studied your thing is uko maju, you come to this environment, sema Kenya now, guess your market. It's a very tiny percentage of the population. So they might be like, okay, one billionaire and his family, they like your art. They're not going to call you for gigs every week. You know, they'll wait for your big one or something, or the Arura show. But the Arura show, they won't even call a classical musician. You know, they will call Samido, but not even Samido. They'll call Samido's 4th band or Ken Maria's 6th band, you know. So everyone's an artist, and then the dynamics, you want to work your way up, it gets just as hard. And in Sikitambo, we used to think that, or at least I used to think that creatives or artists are people that side by side sort of influence policy, just any policy. It doesn't have to be formal policy. It can be as easy as kila mtoto afundishwe heshima. Let every child say hi to the adults wakitembea. Like, don't have kids just running around like wild animals or like pets. You know, like, introduce some humanity into them by acknowledging elders or other people. Artists can drive such a policy or such a mindset so that it's, you get, lakini hiyo kazi ilaribika wakati wa AIDS and polio, and artists are being sponsored to just sing about va kondomu or whatever they used to say, you know.
We are the world.
Yeah, or kicking away polio. Yeah. So musicians commodified themselves by being brought to sing for causes. And this, they never left it because now they became influencers. And now they're being paid to just sell anything, you know. And it's crazy because that now has reached a level where it has cheapened the art. So music, so let's say music used to be an art.
Yeah.
It's no longer an art.
Music is no longer an art.
No, it's not. Because we have musicians that are artists, and then we have artists that are musicians. you couldn't mind your thing. But you get what I'm saying. Because you have, like who? Tuite majina ama tusiite majina?
Ita tu.
Sitaki kuita majina. Wacha niite mtu mmoja mwenye najuanga hata nikimuita shida zake. You see someone like Muafrika from Ikonini.
Yeah.
When I was in high school and they used to do YFM and Ghetto Radio, and this guy was a legend because, so your generation too, or my rapper too.
By the way, Ronje, can you tell me about this guy? Because I am struggling to understand him. Can you tell me a little bit about Muafrika?
I don't know Muafrika. Or what do you mean?
But you talked about him having a radio station.
Yeah, so I know Muafrika as a media personality.
Yes.
He's always been a media personality when I was growing up. He was at YFM, then Ghetto Radio, and then, because I was into that, when you're young, I'm not into hip-hop, but I was into the culture around hip-hop, because I like fashion, I like sound, not rapping, I like the sound. So, Muafrika was always in these spaces, and we'd go to WAP and like, wow, Muaf guy, wow. And then like comparing people, you know, Octopizo, all these guys. Now, or even Uko Flani, Mau, those guys, we know them. But some of them are more artists than something else. And some of them are more other things than artists. You get? So let's say a musician is someone that on Kenyan mainstream right now, I don't know a lot of the young guys, but I'm suspecting that some of them are classically trained, you know. So I don't know, Sauti Sol are not classically trained. Maybe now they are. But a classically trained musician is someone who can read music. You know, you can write music and they read it.
Yeah.
And play it so you understand. You're like, oh,
the GF, na, F, G, whatever.
That is even basic. Now, the crotchets.
What are crotchets?
They're just representations of sounds. So when you see it, you know what to play on your instrument. Doesn't matter which instrument.
So you can have you can see the signs and then just start playing.
Yeah. It's like, those choir books. The choir people read. So those things. Yeah. Now, because how do you know which tune to sing if you don't understand you don't understand the language?
So this thing that looks like an 8, and then there are lines, and then there is an 8.
Yeah. So that 8, that's the time signature. It tells you the time, and then the other things now. So those lines represents, if it's a guitar, it represents those lines on a guitar. If it's the piano, it represents where every note should be on a piano. If it's drums and percussion, it also represents which one is the kick, which one is the crash, which one is the...
Oh, is that
boom,
so?
boom. Yeah.
It tells all that?
Yeah, and if you're playing a string instrument, the same. So that's a classically trained musician. And that person, whether they know how to perform or not, if they can read that, they're trained musicians. So that one may not be an artist. Most classically trained musicians here are not artists.
What are they?
They are musicians. Because they're just trained to play the music. But then there's an artist who does not know, has no clue, even about, if you played him a C and you sing in this, they will not sing, But if you give them a beat, or you give them just what themselves need, and utawambia sawa fanya mambo yako, mbarambamba, see, they will entertain.
Yeah.
That's an artist, not a musician. So that space has so much going on that now Atas Jaleta, now the businessman. Now the artist and the businessman makes money. The artist and the musician can be the struggling musician unaskianga. Huyo ndo struggling artist unaskianga.
Which one?
The one that the artist.
The one who can't read the crotchets.
Yeah, the artist and the musician, because these ones are about the expression. They're just like, mimi nataka kuji-express liwe liwalo. I don't care whether you like it or not. That's now an artist. Them, they're about the moment. They're about the actual thing. They're living it. The business person does not care. Them, they'll be like, oh, unataka niimbie mbuzi, nicheze mbuzi, pige guitar, whatever. Them, they will do it, bora kuna pesa. You get?
Yeah.
Them, they don't care. And then they'll go Ben Githai vibes. Ni wakati wa campaign. All I need to do is write a song and sing the right person. That's business. They don't care how the song's going to sound. They don't care if it's like artist. Because when Bien is writing a song, he'll even tell you, oh, when you rhyme these words, it sounds nice to the ears. So so you're making a song that can be a hit. Like kuna inaitwa nini? Kuna steps to follow to make a hit song. There are steps to follow to make a sad song. When you're playing a melodic instrument, these chords will are somber. These will pick people in a worshipful mood. These ones, they turn up. You get. So it's a lot of things. So the businessman, the artist, and the trained guy, they're all hapo kwa art industry. Wako kwa art scene. Wako kwa. Now, ile story ya business, it overrides everything though, because everyone will need money at the end of the day. We jibambe to express yourself, but at the end of the day, utataka nyumba, utataka food, utataka transi. You'll have to look nice also, because most artists like to look nice. They know to call a cut taste. We want to wear things. So that's when it comes in. Money overrides everything, and no artist is doing art for art, or whatever they're doing for just that thing. They're all doing it for money. But when you're doing it for money, you don't choose where the money comes from. You get? So Mimi, that time when I was talking to you, as you know, All Saints, we had a lot of freedom there, and me also coming from like a separated family, it means I only needed to be good to one parent, you get? Because my mom wasn't around, me I chose to stay with my dad, because he alikuanga na job. mom alikuwa jobless. So me, I was clever, like thinking ahead. Like, I'll always eat and sleep. Na nipige shower, na nipige look niende All Saints, you get. But not everyone thought along. So it's a lot of. That's why I can't go into the details. I know you're itching for it, but
I'm not itching anyways.
Strategy. No, I can tell you all that off camera because your family. Like 15 years, a long time. I know your family. I know your bros, and you know the same about me. It's just not for the Watus until I become a billionaire. Then we'll come back.
I want towards becoming a billionaire.
Who, me?
Yeah.
No. If I reach a level where you can't mess with my comfort.
Yeah.
Sinaweza tu kukuambia vile tunafeel kwani iko nini, because now if I mess that's why I'm avoiding mentioning people, because I've been a victim of freedom. Like when I was being, so it was all that period when I was being called racist. It was because I was an artist and I just wanted to do what I wanted to do, because I grew up with a lot of freedom, including creative freedom. When I was learning music, I was learning what I wanted, or what the people I liked told me to learn. I talked to Fidel Ishimwe. I talked to
Fidel Ishimwe.
Yeah.
It's the first time that somebody has mentioned Fidel Ishimwe after a very long time.
A badass musician in my books.
Where is he?
Where?
Yeah.
I don't know. Probably in the States. I don't know where Fidel is, but that guy...
You don't know where Fidel is?
No, according to Facebook or Instagram, I don't know. I saw...
You see him on Instagram?
He's on Instagram for sure.
Have you seen him?
He's there, I'm telling you. He's on Insta and Facebook. He's not active. He's not a social media person, from what I gather, but that's where I see, Fidel is there. But this guy was one of the first music geniuses I met, because he was multi-instrumentalist. He was so young, very charismatic. He was crazy about music. He was actually insane, So he was a young, insane person. And then there were these old people that were actually insane, like wanapoteza network, but they're musicians. Msee anachezanga organ, like this guy sits on the organ. He's like driving a plane. Like, I don't know what he's doing. He's pulling my thing.
The instrument that I find very weird is that organ thing.
Yeah.
What the fuck is that thing?
It's a pipe. It's a pipe. It's like, yeah, it's a crazy invention. That's why I'm telling you, like, I don't know. But
let's forget about that question. You have already answered it.
Na bado sijakuanzia kwanza wewe.
You want to ask me a question?
Yeah, because you mentioned something about akina Con Osendo.
Yeah.
Con Omori asked you to write a play, and you're like, what?
Mm.
Because Jagero, you're one of those people, wase wa kukam. Now, wase wa kukam, sisi wote ni wase wa kukam. Kenyans have this thing of using words that connote certain things, not seeing themselves being part of that. Hii Kenya, hakuna mtu si mtu wa kukam. You get me? Hii dunia, hakuna mtu si wa kukam. Even the wealthiest family, the banking family, that one.
Mm.
The guy who sent his 5 sons all over the world, which is also very spiritual if you think about it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what came first, the spiritual books or the wealthy guys that could actually sponsor to write spiritual books? Someone could have paid for the Bible to be written. Won't have any jokes. But it's possible, dude. Because history is written by the winners, no? Hapa sasa nimeingia conspiracy theory.
You're beginning
Ladies and
to sound
gentlemen,
like, those Arsenal fans.
I don't know about football, but think about it.
Yeah.
You're asking about All Saints. If All Saints writes their own Bible and releases it, utajuaje?
Hawezi jua?
Exactly, because history, always the winner writes the history.
The winner.
Because the loser either died or is a loser. You get me? But I remember the question, artists, why is it so difficult being an artist? It's all connected for me because I've always been an artist. And so that time when I was talking to you and telling you how difficult it is being an artist was I was dealing with, I'd reached a point where I needed to start dealing with the basically new authority. And it wasn't like direct authority ati now sawe ronje na huyu boss wako. No, it's more like you've worked so hard, doors that you didn't know existed have opened, and now you're inside rooms and spaces that demand things of you that you're probably not prepared to offer.
Yeah.
And it's, you're like, okay, should I not? What goes? Because, when you grow up a certain way, you just know your limits. Mm. And that's how fear works, or that's how education works, or not education, because the good education should enable you to see beyond the target, or alternatives to the target. Mm. But if you're just someone working hard, no godfathers, you're just going in, doing your best, it reaches a point where your best can't take you past that anymore.
Yeah.
You need luck, you need higher intervention, you need miracles, good connections, because there, like those rooms, is connections and hard work, good work that puts you there, at least in my experience, because I've always been a good drummer. When I did my events, I did them very well. I created money for everyone I worked with, because that's the main thing. Like, if you're going to organize an event in a bar, the bar owner does not care about your scene. They don't care about your rock scene. They don't care about your friends and their poetry and what. He cares about his bar and the continuity of his bar. So I understood that. I made money for the bar guy. Then I made money for the bands, because the bands bring the people. And then I made money eventually for me. You get? And then when you do that so well over a period of time, more doors open. More people start asking for you, hey, come do an event at our place. Mpaka wanakuambia tubadilishe nini ndo event kama zile zako ifanyike hapa. You get?
So what usually happens when you're organizing a gig at a bar?
You have to understand the bar. So it's basically, this is the whole marketing thing which you guys do, like sales and product design. So you're basically designing an event to fit both the venue and the target audience. So in this case, you're given a space. It's a bar. The owner has been like, sawa, we kuja. So you have to go there and you decide now what kind of event, what music, what crowd, and then you have to balance everything out, see, okay, maybe this won't work with this crowd, this crowd, maybe these bands can come here, but the crowd does not come there. So you have to find the crowd that comes there, because it's easier to bring people to where they always come to than to force a whole new crowd to come. So I'm like, okay, hii crowd wanakujanga hapa, what do they like? Okay, now you find something that they relate with, but also see yenye wamezoea, because hawatakuja. They're like, it's the usual, wacha tuende like this. You get? So it's just balancing.
So do they pay you for coming there, or what happens? They pay you a certain money?
It depends. It's all now that negotiation, which things I didn't know, because I come from church. I believe in you work and then God anakulipa tu kivyake, you get. But suddenly I'm in a space where you have to put a price at everything you do. So unaanza na kubagain ndogo, unagongwa, unachoma, sometimes unafanya event where uko in debt. So get so many times, like events, people do events, they go home negatives. So many times, it happens all the time. So you just learn as you go. But some places you can split the bar, where if you have people paying to get in, you decide, where that money goes. So if it's going to... But anyway, the baseline, crash course here to organize a successful event is best if you already have capital or you're working without capital, none whatsoever, so that there's no losses. So anything you get is a win. You get. So when you have capital, I'm going to have these artists. This is the expenditure. And the expenditure, if you're a good event organizer, you need to take care of the artists and the people working at the event. This from the cleaner, security, the steward people, the artists themselves, security, the staff that work at that venue, because sometimes you letter your people and then it's like you've colonized a bar. So na ama waiter wanafanyanga pa kazi wako na pali wanaikanga vitu, you get?
Yeah.
Sasa wewe umeleta watu wako to just override all that, you're not coming back, and if you do, you're going to have problems, because these guys, this is their bread and butter. Hapo ni kwao. So you have to find a way to work nicely. Now you're managing two teams, because now you're managing your team and the team of the bar, and your team sometimes is so big that you have a head of security, or you have a head of uko ingine, you get? So you have to learn so much that you didn't, and each event there was a new thing to learn, so that when it comes, so that was my journey. Me, I didn't have I learned by attending events. You know, I worked with Muthoni at Blankets, but not on the event side. Me, I'm a performer. I played drums, that's it. But I watched everything. I was like, how is everything working so vizuri ati event ikianza kila mtu tu asha set up, the food is ready, drinks are ready, everything just there, you know. I'm like, how do you do that? Mawachi wanajuaje tu magari za entrance ni huko. You know, like these vitu zinafanyikaje. Yeah. So, and all this time also, Muthoni was at practice with us. So mimi najiuliza maswali, how does one person do all these things? You know, because in school, even if you study business in Kenya, they don't be like, this is event production. Because I've seen this now in places I've been able to work. Like, I'm teaching kids things I wish I was taught. You know, if you're doing BTech, business technology in music or in something, like let's say some of these schools around here, she mentioned you mimi siuzi mtu. You know, but you go to a school, for instance, and they have like a wall, kitu kama ile, notice board saying, careers in music. Bro, careers in music? You mean music itself is not a career? Hapo ndani sasa ndio kuna careers, you get?
Yeah.
And that's why when I hear people say ati shule ni shule, bro, I feel like slapping them. Not slapping them for it, because I'm not seriously fight. But how do you say school is school? It's not. School is not school. School is the people. Like, you can take your child to uko pali wanasoma kwa darasa ya nini, and then you expect them to come compete with kids that were going on trips to Spain. You get me? So come away.
You have been in those international schools.
That's what I'm telling you.
How does it shape you? How do you think? By the way, we are going to talk about Colombia in episode 2. We can't talk about Colombia now. Colombia is long gone now.
There's Colombia, South Korea.
We are going to talk about
so many places.
We are going to talk about that, and Edinburgh.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about that in another maybe before the end of the week. But tell me about what is the biggie? What is the biggie with these
international schools?
With these international schools, yeah.
It's because what you learn in an international school. First of all, your teacher in an international school and in a village school. Most village school people, teachers, those days, like days we went to school, right? The farthest they'd been would be maybe Shanzu, if they're a guy from Siaya. Waliitwa college wapi Shanzu, so they crossed the country at least a few times. A few times walipanda bus, wakaona inchi, like, and then huko wakakutana na Wakamba, Wadigo, like some other communities. So at least they have the outlook of Kenya is afadhali. But the system they were learning in, Nile system, kama ya Kiganjo, that's why you cannot reason with a primary school teacher in a Kanjo school, sema in Ushago, or even in Nairobi most times, and a police officer. Like our tu wa kutembea kwa streets. Most times, sisemi ati makarao wote, you cannot have a conversation, a reasonable one. I'm sorry, police officers. But the education we get, see negotiations. We're not taught negotiations, for instance, because that's just one aspect of having a fruitful, peaceful society. You should be able to negotiate, have a conversation about any problem. It doesn't matter how heavy it is.
If you are late, you should be able to be given an opportunity to say why you are late.
Yeah. But that becomes irrational because now the first world will use that against but it's because of mindlessness, where they'll just be like, if you go to you go to your meetings, you travel a lot and you meet people. If you're late one day because you're in South Korea and you missed your train, because it's very easy to miss those things if you're not used to them, and you can't dandia them kama yetu ati mtu anakuvuta hata unaingia. No. You miss it. You wait for the next one and you're going to be late. Like, kama uko kwa tube in London trying to go somewhere and you miss your train, bro, you're late. Unless ulianza 5 hours early. Because palita kuweka, it's not easy to use those things. And they take you really far also, because they're so fast, they take you really far. So if you're lost, you're even more lost, because now labda unajua pale umetoka kidogo, pale umeachwa ujui, and you're a black man, no one is going to help you. Like, a good Samaritan will have to help you. And that's after you've been humiliated, like people just pushing you off the way, just being ignored, or because you don't know where you're going enough to think about it. You're slow, someone has walked off. Like, so time depends where you are and your circumstances. And if you're African, you also know if you live in Africa, anything can happen to anyone at any time. So if I'm late, let me explain. But that will always be used against us. It won't make sense to them. But story education, bro, just negotiation, human to human. Like Wambi Karao, okay, even though they will not listen. It's the same way you try and argue with a teacher, your village chief, not argue, have a meaningful conversation that will most times, if it's something that is most likely to have a productive, a seminal outcome, they hate it even more, because wewe sasa ndo utakuja kutuambia vile we can make this better. Nimefanya kazi 25 years. Wewe ndo unataka kuniambia ati negotiation is better than just harassing people wakae chini wanipatie 200, because that's my target. You get? My target is that you're always afraid of me, so that every time nikiguruma, you give me that 200 bob, or that thing I want from you. You get? So it's based on oppression, like a lot of things that we need to unlearn as Africans and black people. Now, if you go to now international schools, these kids, they are taught by teachers that are more learned than the village teacher, more learned than the police officer. Okay, because to be and then it's an international school. There's an international element to it. The syllabus, yeah. So it's many times actually, local teachers, wherever you are, whether you're in Kenya working as a local teacher, or you're in Indonesia working as an Indonesian in Indonesia, or you're Colombian working in Colombia as in an international school, you will always have problems of that syllabus not teaching enough of your culture, because it's an international syllabus. It's meant to make global citizens. The Ushago school, the Kanjo school hapa, is meant to make just wafanyikazi tu wa huku. And if you're lucky, you can become a lawyer, maybe a doctor, maybe something even better, you get. But it's not made to make you go to New York and start life and thrive. Nah, that's when you're out of like, you shouldn't be there. That's why the systems are so hard, bro. That's why they be like, oh, you can go to, as a Kenyan, you can go to Jamaica, visa free, because there is actually black people, and you see, we don't like black people in most of these places. So you guys, you can go to Jamaica visa free instead of Sweden. But to go to Jamaica for visa free, you have to pass by Sweden, where you need a visa. So you're still going to pay who? Sweden for your visa. But you go to Jamaica for free. So who made the money?
Swedish. The Swedish people, the Europeans.
They made your African money, and you're going to try and see your other Africans. You get... So this game... So if you go to an international school, chances are it's not an issue. If you want to go to Jamaica, you're probably already staying like... I don't know. You can go to these places, and it's not an issue like paying transit visas. to go to places. You're not even if you go to an international school in Africa, chances are you don't even have an African passport. And if you do, you can upgrade easily. You can, after school, most of them go. Do you know another trauma for rich kids, school kids in Kenya, is not being able to go abroad after high school. Mse. Until you went to Brook House, and then you're not going abroad for further studies. That thing has ruined people.
So they are told that they're supposed to be going abroad after their international schooling in Kenya?
No, it's the culture. That's the culture.
What's the culture?
The culture is that there are things you need to be able to do to always be comfortable in that culture. And that means international trips shouldn't be a problem. Or going to uni abroad after, because here it's A-levels. Yeah, so after A-levels, you can go to USIE or Daystar or Strathmore. Like hiyo inafaa kuwa masters ama second degree. Immediately after A-levels, Brookhouse, you need to go Maju for at least a year. It's just a lifestyle thing. It's just, hiyo tu ni standard. So
are you told about it?
No.
Is it expected of you? People talk about it along streets, crossroads and junctions?
No, it's as expected as a man being married by age 30 or a woman. You know, like hautaulizwa directly, like ini pia tutakuona tu, like wewe mbona hujafanya hizo vitu. labda tutakuita the next party, you know, like guy na how come? Because tutakuwa na bonga what? And when we come back,
so how does it become a trauma then?
Because you cannot go.
Why?
So it's either, I don't know, that's what I'm saying. If you cannot go for reasons that involves money, because, that's what I was saying. Some parents, clever ones, they struggle. They take their kids to school, to the best schools they can, up to when they can. And then things happen, blah, blah, blah,
Or they realize that shit, this going to the US is gonna kill us financially.
Exactly.
So
that's what I'm talking about.
You now have to go to Daystar.
Yeah.
You now have to go to fucking Jomo Kenyatta University.
Yeah. Now, your classmates that have gone huko, umejua washakuacha by the way. They'll highlight you, but already tukuna vile you're the weakest.
You've been dropped.
You're the weakest link. You might still be around.
You've been dropped.
Yeah. You're a weak link. You're basically a weak link. Not necessarily blocked at you umetolewa kwa groups. It might happen depending on the maturity of your friendships, but you're the weakest link. Wejiwanga tu. But kama wewe sai Jagero. I mean, us guys are different. We have friends in every place. But the people who say things like, like that boys club of Akina Bob Colimo and those guys.
Mm.
That club, now imagine being in that club and you like us guys, like you don't know about the London Stock Exchange and CG, you don't discuss Wall Street, and you don't care what's that guy, those things. Mm. It's just levels. So huwezi kuwa kwa hiyo club. But it does not mean that you don't greet Jeff Koinange huko kwa corridors of Citizen TV. You know what I mean?
Mm.
You're still colleagues, but amuko the same. So the same way, if you go to these schools and you can't go to uni abroad, you still went to that school and you'll always be in the yearbooks. But kuna mali ilifika ukakuwa weak link. If you make up sawa, if you make your way back up to a point where you're as strong as them and they feel like if they do that thing with you, autawangusha, then good for you. You get? So you can imagine the problem of ulikuwa nasema, was this insecurity because you're around all this wealth that you don't come from. So that's it. International schools is about networks. It's about confidence. Because if you learn a global syllabus, you're a global citizen. It means you're going to meet another international school kid and you can start from that level. You get? You can just start by discussing. Because there's common things. There's songs that you can just sing. You went to school in New York, Uyalenda Shule, China. There's songs you can just sing. There are things you just know that me, Mr. Jua.
Yeah.
Juu mimi nilienda hapo Mbagathi Road Primary School. You get me? So wazazi, like I'm talking to parents. it's some bullshit. Like usiwahi danganywa. Shule ni networks. That's why we have I went to Alliance. I went to Starehe. Because even those guys, you see.
Yeah, I had a Starehe guy sitting over there.
Yeah.
He's so proud of Starehe.
You see? But you see now that one cannot go saying that to someone that went to St. Mary's.
Yeah.
You get? Watakuwa professionals wafanye kazi in the same sports, but you're not a saint.
You're not a saint.
You're not a saint.
You're a sinner.
Yeah. Wewe ni wa Starehe. Kwanza nyinyi mlikuwa mnavuka Tomboya Street na Vinyasa na mna gani? Like, I mean, I can diss you. Basically, I can diss you, you know.
Yeah.
And it's just those traumas of if you don't come from places and you're aspiring for more, there's that thing for you can. That's why unasikanga new money people, you old money people. Sindio? Because you can make like someone looks at it just happens that all these global billionaires, akina Bill Gates, akina Mark Zuckerberg, they all come from millionaire families. They just pretended so that we could embrace them. They're like, he's like me, maybe you know, like using someone's privilege as your hope, which is a good thing. I think that's quite philanthropic of them to pretend to be poor, to inspire poor kids. You know what I mean? It's like, I can't give you my billions, but you can use my story. It's a fake one, but it's only me to prove it, you know?
A billionaire told me that I can't give you money. I don't have money.
Yeah. Yeah. But you see that's like at your age, if a billionaire tells you that, say amekudis, juu unajua maana hiyo kitu. Because you tell your daughter that story and you're like, because you know her understanding of money is not the same as yours. Basically, you're dissing them.
Yeah.
So when a billionaire tells you that right now, Jagero, imagine anakutukana aje. Anakwambia, bro, ujasoma, like the things I know about money.
Yeah.
You get me? So those kind of things. So people choose to either learn those things. Maybe my dream was always I wanted to be this like a punk professor guy. I want to be a punk professor, like a guy who knows things but doesn't care. That's why I go around looking like I'm not worth what I am, just to deal with the bullshit. Because I love seeing it, and then sometimes I tell those ladies, look, just because siku kuongelesha English, haimaanishi unidharau. Una get? Juu mimi ndo labda nakubless hapa, labda mimi ndo malaika unakunguna ngoja. You get me? But these Sudanese, these boys, Niger boys that you see them, alafu you go on your knees. Those ones, do you think this is the best place they can, if they really had money? Do you think Nairobi, in Kilimani, or in Ngara, or hapa kwa Kibanda, do you think this is the best place they choose to be if they really had money? You get me? But ukiambia mtu hivyo, wanasema acha tuniende niote jua. Like juu masomo tunapewa si ya kufikiria that hard. So me I told that mzee, this guy was treating me shadily. Nikamuuliza mbona unanitreat hivyo? Juu siongee English. Hapo hivyo mbele kulikuwa sijui some mzee ametoka hapo, they were treating them nice because they're speaking English. And then this mzee tells me wacha niende niote jua. So like enter wote jua na ikupatia wisdom, because you're embarrassing yourself as a big black man. Yeah. You only want to speak because you go to Germany, and if you don't start any interaction with the German word, utalengwa tu. And no one will tell you why. Because they care about, they're like, you're now a land, speak our language, otherwise fuck you.
Yeah.
Like at least jaribu, so that tukufunze uko mbele, lakini anza. But in Kenya, it's the other way around. In Kenya, it's like, kama mimi ni Mkenya na wewe unajaribu kula lugha yangu, even if I'll just judge you, alafu I revert back to the language I think you speak normally.
Yeah.
Juu mimi nataka, juu our self-esteem. Now look at our collective self-esteem. Inakuanga down design. When we see other things, we aspire to be them. But atujui that you cannot aspire from nothing. At least you could.
I see even people that change their accents.
Yeah, sindio.
They always to see us that you are speaking loud like a Luo.
Yeah.
Fuck them.
But bro, even if you whisper, you'll never be accepted in the king's palace in England. you speak with your politesse. Bruh, you'll never be one of them. They will never accept you.
They never expected that American woman.
Which one?
The Harry lady.
Which one?
The Harry lady. The one that married Harry.
Oh, but that babe wasn't from nowhere. It's the same way people thought Lupita Nyong'o. Americans thought Lupita Nyong'o was one of those poor black girls that made it. You didn't see that thing a few years ago? And then they were offended that Lupita Nyong'o is actually... And now there's international school kids, which is another community of humans. These are kids that have got problems fitting in because they never lived in one place for so long.
Yeah.
They never got grounded as kids anywhere. So all their friends, they met them for a term, a couple of terms, maybe a couple of years maximum, and then parents were switched to another country.
Why were they pissed off that Nyong'o did not come, Lupita did not come from some village school?
Because if you're in that global culture,
they want to create stories and articles.
Yeah, so the global culture, you know how you listen to economy, you listen to people, they say blacks or Africans are not part of the futuristic conversation.
Yeah.
Because us guys are meant to just help that journey, but we are not meant to see the promised land. So even now, the best places you can be, the best nightclub, the best beaches, any of that just has been created to be a nice experience. It's not for regular black people. To be there as a black person, you have to be like, the right people. Not every African president can be there because it's a private members club. Private members clubs, black people, it just happens that we have less money, generally. We have less education, and that's a fact. Now, the other things that come with that, like high crime, high mortality rates, high negative things. So we can argue, we can say that, mortality, what? No, we're not dying that much. Or you can say, we are very peaceful people. But it just happened that there are correlations of less education, less jobs, high death rates, high crime rates, other vices. You know what I mean? So we really cannot argue about it. So when they see a black person like Lupita Nyong'o being such a star, and everyone is like doing Wakanda forever and like singing these songs, or, if Lion King had characters and it was black people, it would be the same, because they think that every successful black person either is already American or British, or were saved from Africa. Saved, not affluent that they went to theaters, some of the best theater schools in the world and things like that. You get me? But Lupita is a professional, went to the best schools, toiled, did her jobs. Like in Nairobi, you can see her being a regular actor, and then you can see her being a student in the places she studied up to where she reached her stardom. And there are people in the world that will never want to acknowledge that. They will always just want to, because as people, like black people, unless you really come and mess with us right now on this table, we just cannot theoretically hate someone. Yeah. Do you have someone in your mind just like that one, or a race, or it's like,
No.
But imagine there's someone that is so regular in their daily life, they are so comfortable and so regular, they have to go online and find someone to offend or to make feel like they're better. Because that's the only way I can explain it. How do you find someone that's so comfortable and happy in their life, but they just want to hate you because of how you look? You get, you walk into a place, suddenly they're like uneasy and stewing in nini. You know what I do? I reverse them, bro. And I'm telling this, if you're a black person, someone ever does some nonsense trying to make you feel uncomfortable because you walked into a space, just mirror them. If they act like they're hiding their phone, do the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. If they walk away, occupy their space.
Ronje, thank you very much. We're going to be talking about Colombia and South Korea in our next episode. I hope before you go back to Colombia, you're very shifty. You're very difficult to pin down. Do you promise me that we're going to talk about Colombia and South Korea before you go back to
wherever? I will, Koa. You know, we've not even... Do you know why I'm shifty? I never used to be shifty. I'd even told you everything today. Chenye ulikuwa nataka, but I told you, nilifunzwa na ulimwengu.
Yeah.
So even nikitoka hapa saizi, nimekuwa zile za morara. But I'm not, me, I don't like pandering matatus. I don't like taxis. I prefer walking. I like border borders. Umejua hii hewa yetu hii ya unapigwa na upepo and the sun is there and you can just buy mind choma pale ukulangi kienda. There are places you can't enjoy that. Especially if you're a black man around the world. There are places you just cannot be outside doing whatever you want because everyone's watching you and they don't want you to have a good time there. And if it's not everyone watching you, the weather is so brutal. Then ndio utoke nje lazima uangalie nguo zako zote every day unajuanga nguo zako.
For that reason I really hate being in Europe when it is cold.
When it's no summertime. Na ni kama ni summertime ni usororaji because you're a black man.
Yeah.
You get.
They're all out there with their tights and breasts out.
Yeah, so that's why mimi nikiwa huku tu.
You're damned if you go there during summer. You're damned if you go there when it is cold. All right, people of the internet, thank you very much.